And that's my fear, is that whatever exclusive deal they have, Penguin Random House can just go, no thanks. And then what? If Diamond's not around anymore, where do you go with that model? Who distributes those comic books?
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dale Bush.
Even though the word challengers has been said numerous times by this point in the podcast, I feel we may have some new ears this week, this episode, just because of general industry happenings. People have been interested in our take. So I thought we'd be a little bit more formal in our presentation of this episode of Contest of Challengers, the comics industry business podcast from Challengers Comics Conversation in Chicago, with me, Patrick Brower.
And me, W. Dale Bush.
So, Dal, it's been a week, right?
It's
definitely been a week. It feels like it's been a week this last day or so.
Yep.
Where do you think you want to start?
I guess we can start with the main thing people are going to want to hear about, I guess, maybe.
Volumes Bookcafe?
No.
6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton?
No, although I could literally spend the entire podcast talking about the 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton.
Square server issues? One of those things?
None of those. Hey, let's talk about Marvel leaving Diamond Comic Distributors in favor of Penguin Random House for their comic distribution inside the direct market.
This is what I said to anybody who asked me what I thought on a personal level. What if they did it via a messaging service, not in person?
Sure.
I said, I'm sorry, I was in the next room weeping and updating my resume.
Oh, come on.
What was your question?
Oh, no. Obviously, this is news that's going to impact a lot of different aspects of the comics industry, pretty much every conceivable tier of the industry. That said, it's not all bad news or all good news. It's good news and bad news, kind of depending on where you are and who you are in the industry. How is it for challengers, though? It's sort of weird to be, I don't want to say complacent about it, but
I mean, we're definitely not complacent about it.
Unmoved by it, mostly because the whole year has been an insane number of curveballs that are thrown to us, and this is not the first publisher that's made a massive change to how we do things.
I want to look back. I think it was April of 2020.
Okay.
We did an episode of this very podcast where the whole subject was, can challengers survive without Diamond Comics?
Sure.
And the answer was yes, absolutely. It was envisioning a future without them.
Yeah, well, to give it some context, at the time, Diamond had stopped distributing comics, new product to stores. They were still doing backlist.
Which was supremely helpful.
Yeah, but on a slightly truncated labor plan. So they had less people working at the warehouses, 4 less hours of the day, 4 less days of the week. So getting back stock was a little bit more, a little longer timeline than we were normally used to. But, I mean, we weren't open to the public, so it was, however long it took was like, all right, that's fine. But they weren't releasing new product, and that's what possibly led to DC deciding to leave Diamond in favor of starting their own distribution houses.
I'm sure it was the let's do it right now factor.
Yeah, I mean, half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. I think they were definitely planning on leaving Diamond, but that was the sort of the cover they could have was like, well, if Diamond's not going to distribute our comics, we need to have a solution for that rather than just we wanted to leave Diamond anyway and this is a good excuse. But yeah, at that time, you know, the idea was, can Diamond restart, and how long is it going to take them to restart, and what does publishing look like, and what does consumer demand look like, and the idea was, because we were already starting to hear things of like, Diamond can't pay its, you know, the premier publishers that it's responsible for. They're having to tell people like Marvel and DC, you are going to have to wait a little bit for your money. But frankly, every business was doing that then. Every business was like, no money's coming in. I don't know how quickly I'm going to be able to pay you. Like, I have to pay my employees, or I have to pay my rent, or I have to pay for food. So Diamond was kind of doing the same thing everybody was, which is like, give us a few days to figure this out. And DC's like, you do not have a few days. But there was some real talk at the time about whether or not Diamond was going to last and whether Diamond was going to be able to come back. And obviously, you know, we're here in March of 2021, and Diamond's still going. Diamond came back, comics came back, publishers came back, fans came back.
Was the comeback better than the setback? Bigger? Was it bigger? Was that the word? Bigger than the setback?
I believe it was our comeback will be bigger than our setback, which was Diamond's slogan. That was, fine, whatever. I didn't feel like it needed a slogan, but whatever. Regardless...
I don't feel most things need a slogan.
No. Regardless...
Keep reading comics.
Thanks for listening.
I just meant, slogans.
I love you, but I just think thanks. So we spent a year with things being weird and things being uncertain and feeling like, I don't want to say we turned a corner necessarily, but things felt a little bit more stable. We'd learned to live with a lot of the weird things that had happened and made adjustments to our business model accordingly. And then, all of a sudden, Marvel announced on Thursday that they were leaving Diamond Comic Distributors, who's been the exclusive distributor in the direct market for Marvel Comics and graphic novels for decades, to go to Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House, who is a massive book distributor who distributes a lot of different publishers outside of their own books, has never really done single-issue comics to the direct market.
They do single-issue comics.
Right, just not to
the direct market.
Yeah. It's the newsstand, basically. So you could get them, the sort of stuff, whatever Marvel or DC or whoever distributes to the newsstands, the little magazine racks that you'd find at, like, Barnes & Noble. But yeah, they weren't full line, and they weren't, variants and reprints and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, they announced that effective October 1st, product shipping October 1st, Penguin Random House will be handling Marvel's distribution within the direct market, which means comic shops. Diamond Comic Distributors will be allowed to wholesale them, which means Diamond is buying them from Penguin Random House at a discount.
We would be doing ourselves.
Well, that's the thing. It's unclear what discount Diamond's going to be getting, and in turn, we don't know what discount Diamond's going to be offering their clients. If you continue to buy through Diamond, you're not probably going to get 50% off like you're going to get through Penguin Random House, but you could be getting somewhere between 40 and 47%, depending on sort of where they're at. Or it could be, 49%. Nobody knows. Like, Diamond has not announced that yet. Like, this, we're talking on Friday night. It was just announced at 11 a.m. yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I was woken up by Jim McLaughlin asking for comments on it, and he had it before the announcement. He's like, hey, this is dropping in 15 minutes. What's your immediate reaction? So I had to read it right away and be like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I tried to message you to say, hey, this is happening, but you were unavailable.
I was getting breakfast.
So it was, so I read it, I jumped on, I answered his questions.
Sure.
Later in the day, Penguin Random House, who we're just going to abbreviate to PRH from now on. That's how we do it when we're writing them anyway.
That's true.
But just for the listeners' edification, it is Penguin Random House that is PRH. They put out a very thorough FAQ sheet that answered a lot of the questions I had. Yeah,
but at the same time, like, there are elements of the Diamond side of it where Diamond was basically saying, more news to come.
Right, yeah, sure.
So...
That, by the way, that quick sidebar, that is what Lunar keeps doing about this week's Action Comics that had the printing error in it.
Oh, sure.
There was even in their email today, hey, we're going to be replacing these, more details to come.
Yeah.
What?
Didn't realize it was that difficult.
That's the second notice in a row. It's like, more details to come.
So,
do we pull them off the shelf? Do we not sell them to people? I mean, we know.
Yeah, I mean,
what is your...
Well, to us it wasn't to segue, I guess, to the Action Comics thing. To us it wasn't that big a deal. We actually, we flipped through an issue and found the error. And the error was basically like a roll of paper had a tiny tear in it when it was being printed. So every page of every issue had one page in it where there was a tiny little tear in it. But it wasn't anything that impacted the story. And it was line wide. So it's like, there isn't a near mint copy to sell you. This is just what they all look like. So we didn't pull it. So it's like, here you go. You can still read the story.
I mean, being as mean as possible, that book's never going to be worth anything.
Action Comics. Getting back to the Penguin Random House, PRH, Marvel deal. So there are elements of the Diamond side of it that we don't know. But what we were told from PRH and what Diamond assured us of is that stores that want to maintain a Diamond account to get Marvel Comics are able to do so. The discount's going to be worse. But if you prefer to stay at Diamond, you're able to do that. One of the comparisons someone had made online, I think it was maybe another retailer, was similar to how Ingram operates as a book distributor. Ingram is a wholesaler, not a distributor, So they get books from a lot of different distributors and sell them to stores. We had an Ingram account before we had a Penguin Random House account. And through Ingram, we were able to order Penguin Random House books just at a worse discount. But the good news was you could get a lot of different publishers that you don't necessarily have an account with. We don't currently have an account with Scholastic, although I think we should. They had a deal, I hope we didn't miss, that was coming out of Comics Pro, where it was basically like a way lower buy-in.
Yeah.
I'll have to dig that up, and we should talk about that later. Because it seemed like a thing where it's like, oh, this we could actually do. Previously, the Scholastic buy-in was like an insane number, and it's like we would have to basically shove in the back room so many copies of books that we already have, as opposed to when we started our Simon & Schuster account, it was just like, oh, here's what we're out of. That hits their minimum, we're ready to go. Scholastic tuned their number down a little bit to something that was more like, oh, a weekly reorder, and then you can get started. So we'll have to talk about that. But Scholastic we don't have an account with, but we order Scholastic books that Diamond is not in stock with from Ingram, because they stock Scholastic. They stock a lot of different publishers and imprints that we don't necessarily have a direct account with. So Diamond's going to do sort of the same thing with Marvel, where you can still get Marvel comics, not backstock though. That was one key thing that was pointed out. You can essentially like do your initial orders through Diamond still, but Diamond is not going to have extra copies of different books in stock. It sounds like, if I read that correctly. They will not have like graphic novels and things anymore. That's going to be Hachette or Penguin Random House.
The way I made it, the way I understood it, and of course this is, again, a day and a half,
right,
is that PRH will have all the new Marvel stuff, but all your back stock is still going to be Hachette.
Well, I guess I feel like over time they would have probably the Marvel graphic novels and stuff, right?
I think my guess is that Marvel has an exclusive deal with Hachette.
Well,
so when that runs out, they'll jump over, but
maybe. But at the same time, like there is the specification of like comic shop and direct market, like direct market and book market.
Yeah.
Like there's places where like you can get like look at DC with their graphic novels.
Yeah.
Lunar is the exclusive distributor in the direct market. You can get graphic novels from them, new ones, old ones, whatever they got. But you can also go through Penguin Random House, who is the exclusive distributor to the book trade.
So I guess that answers a more general question I had, that if Penguin Random House is the company that is distributing Marvel books to us, are we no longer the direct market? We've gone legit. We're the mainstream market.
I guess. They'll probably just be different.
We're not getting them from outside channels anymore.
There'll just be a different name for it, like book market and comic shop specialty market or
something like that.
But
it was also pointed out that comic shops are, man, I forget his name, Gene David Michael? Sorry.
The Mega Brain guy?
Yeah, the Mega Brain guy.
Yeah.
That comic shops are basically bookshops. You know, we operate like a bookshop.
Sure.
We're laid out like a bookshop.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense that a book distributor is giving us comics.
True. So yeah, so the basically it's PRH taking over what Diamond does as far as how a shop like Challengers gets its new Marvel comics and graphic novels. The pros and cons of it basically boil down to the cons are our discount is worse.
Yep.
Penguin Random House is doing a 50% flat discount. I don't know if there's going to be special deals for special accounts. If that happens, we'll never be aware of it.
There's rumors that there is a chance to earn higher discounts.
Okay.
I would not expect we are anywhere near that.
I don't know. I mean, we were way above the 50% discount at Diamond.
Yeah, but it's funny because I'm hearing from a lot of other retailers what their discounts are.
Sure.
And it seems like a lot of stores that look comparable to us in size are 1 point higher than us.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. We're never as big as people think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do okay. We do all right. So the discount is going to be worse.
I spent an hour and a half on the phone last night being told otherwise.
No?
The discount's going to be worse.
The discount's going to be worse, and we're going to have to do basically a bunch more work. In the same way that our DC ordering and receiving is more complicated now than it used to be because it's not coming through Diamond, Marvel's going to be the same way. No one knows exactly how it's going to work yet, in that while Penguin Random House has said they're going to have things like final order cutoff and initial orders and stuff, what that looks like and how it operates, no one's seen it yet. We're just told like it's in the works. So that's the thing that like the Penguin Random House, their basic, their .biz site just got redone and it's great, but it just got redone and it's great. Before that, it was pretty unusable.
Yeah.
So I don't know if version 1 of their comics ordering stuff is going to be exactly what we want as a store. I mean, the good news is it can change over time. Hopefully they'll be responsive. They'll turn into something else. But much like the early days of the Lunar stuff, it's probably going to be a few months of things not working as well as we'd want, not having the information we need, and being a little frustrating. It's especially difficult because Marvel is our number one publisher as far as comics sold. So it's not like this is happening with like Valiant or something where it's like a few books a month. This is happening with a huge publisher that is a big part of our weekly business. Additionally, and this is a thing that's going to be kind of a multiplier on how complicated or frustrating the switchover is. Marvel has so many SKUs. Marvel has so many different items it offers in a month. Any book can have anywhere between like a minimum of 2 and a maximum of like 12 covers, all at different levels of availability. We're talking, theme covers and incentive covers and connecting covers. Some of these books ship multiple times a month, which means, the right data needs to be there or it's not going to make a lot of sense what we're ordering while we're ordering it. So there's a lot of... Marvel is a very big machine that is kind of barely working as it is, and kind of... It's a train switching tracks, and that can happen smoothly or it can happen in a way that derails and, causes a lot of damage. No one knows which one this is yet because this got announced yesterday, and we're hearing a lot of positive things. Everyone between Penguin Random House and Marvel is very excited about this. It's only good things. It's going to be great. We heard that from Lunar and DC last year, and it was months of this doesn't work right. And we had less problems than a lot of people had with Lunar, but we still had problems with Lunar, and we still have problems with how DC is coordinating things between places like Lunar and Diamond, and then down to us as retailers. I would hardly say that communications have been unified across all channels. One of the nice things, though, about the Marvel PRH thing is that, while we're sitting here a day and a half later, as Patrick said, with questions, with things that we don't have the answers to, with concerns or with some skepticism maybe of how things are going to work out, Penguin Random House did an enormous amount of work to allay a lot of really obvious fears in a way that DC and Lunar didn't. For one thing, the timeline of how long this is going to take is really long compared to the DC Lunar one, which was basically you guys have about 10 days to get an account in order if you want to get books, which is insane. And that was in the midst of the start of the pandemic. That was when people are working from home, no one's in their stores, everyone's like hunkering down. You couldn't go places, you couldn't like grocery stores. And DC's like, well, figure it out, guys. So the fact that Marvel has waited this long is kind of generous. And then having PRH, which is not a brand new company, Lunar and UCS were brand new companies who were also operated by essentially competitors to the direct market.
Yep.
So having Penguin Random House, who's just like, we're just a book distributor. We're going to distribute comics now too. We've been distributing graphic novels. It feels like it's like, oh, this is a professional operation, not just someone who's trying to patch a hole that DC created. This is Marvel going to someone who knows what they're doing and saying, okay, do this for us now too. So that's great.
There's definitely been a lot more thought put into this. And, I mean, I fully believe that a year ago when DC left, Marvel, if they hadn't already been looking at options, were like, all right, let's give this serious thought.
Yeah, I mean, Heidi McDonald's reporting on this has kind of rumored a few things of just... This was happening a while ago, and this is kind of independent of COVID and kind of independent of the DC Lunar UCS stuff, where Penguin Random House is already sort of investigating, could we do this? How would we do this? Who would want to do this? And so this is... I'm sure it accelerated a bit because
So do you think this was PRH going to Marvel and saying, hey, what do you think, guys?
I think this is probably discussions either of them could be having independently and sort of, eventually connecting and going, oh, you're offering what we want to do and we want to do what you're offering. So I think it's more just two independent explorations of this that became oh, this could work. The certainly, again, I think it accelerated in the last year because, and this is kind of I said before that there's different positives and negatives depending on kind of where you are in the industry. The pure negatives are for Diamond. Because I think this is when DC left Diamond, it destabilized things. It didn't end up sinking anything, but it definitely created a shakier foundation. And I think Marvel at that point, who is still Diamond's number one client at the time, and continued to be so after DC left, definitely thought we need to have options. Because if Diamond goes away, and it could take Marvel Publishing kind of with it. So Marvel needed a kind of escape plan, and I think the last year has probably been them figuring out exactly what shape that would take and who it would be with. And yeah, I mean, if they weren't talking to PRH before, they probably got in contact with PRH in the months thereafter. So going back to our pros and cons, I said the cons because that's Challengers and that's how we operate. Cons are more work for us, a lower discount. The pros, though...
Free shipping.
Free shipping, which is, as any comics retailer who deals with Diamond will tell you, that is the main reason to not go with Diamond, is because someone is offering you free shipping. Diamond charges for direct shipments. If you pick up at a warehouse, they're charging you to pack and get the books somewhere other than Diamond's warehouse. That's been Diamond's policy forever, for decades. That's not how everyone else does it anymore. We go through Ingram, who has fuel subsidies, and basically if you get over a minimum, you're going to pay next to nothing for shipping. We have PRH, that is free freight, and also pretty fast freight. Not as fast as Ingram. Usually Ingram we get in like a day or two. Penguin Random House, they ship from 2 different warehouses depending on what books you're getting. So we might get like a small selection of younger reader books. If we order them on a Sunday, we get them on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. The bulk of our stuff, which is all like DC and Dark Horse, that shows up like Thursday, maybe Friday at the latest.
That's one of the things that's going to be different for them, is all of their comic books are being shipped out of the same warehouse in, was it Maryland?
Maryland, yeah.
And it's just comics. Due to the ability to have comics, the potential of comics to be damaged in shipping.
Almost the certainty of it.
They're going to not ship them with graphic novels, trades, larger books, whatever.
Which is good, because it's one of the first things Patrick and I talked about when it was clear, like, the scope of this was, we've been doing PRH for DC graphic novels for the last, 6 months. They're not almost always damaged, but they are frequently damaged at a much, I would say, a higher rate than Diamond traditionally is.
I had posted on a retailer forum that PRH is the worst packed boxes of any comic product we get.
Yeah.
And I was told by Brian Hibbs that their second, Scholastic, is worse.
Oof.
But the PRH is bad.
PRH is bad. But the thing is, graphic novels are relatively resilient. You really got to screw up a box and screw up the packing of a box to irrevocably damage a book.
But comics, especially Marvel comics.
Oh my God. I mean, you do one slight thing wrong. You put
breathe
one
on
thing,
it too heavy.
Yeah, you put one thing on top of a thing that you should not put something on top of, and suddenly, 40 copies of a book are unsellable. And that's the thing. People who buy graphic novels are, obviously if something's got a torn cover or something completely bent or whatever, someone's going to look at it and go, I don't want to buy this. But a little bit of shelfware, most people are like, I just want to read it. It's going to go on a bookshelf. I don't care. Comics are the exact opposite. If there is even the slightest flaw, someone's going to look at it and go, oh, you don't have a better copy? And so that $4 comic, if it's not near mint, people are just going to throw it away. I mean, not everybody, but shelf copies, that's usually where we're at, is if it's got an imperfection, we are going to hear about it constantly. Unless it's a copy of Action Comics and no one cares.
There you go.
Yeah.
I wonder if PRH already has or is going to make custom boxes the way Lunar did to be able to do basically the internal boxes Diamond uses. They started custom making their own thicker walled.
Yeah, I would think so.
Cardboard.
I would think so.
I'm sure they have a separate plan.
It would definitely help. And again, Penguin Random House as a company is so large, and this is their job, is distributing things. So I think I would assume that that's going to be what happens. If they're willing to essentially put an entire warehouse just to the task of shipping out pamphlet comics, I mean, making boxes is a breeze compared to that. That's the simplest thing in the world. Especially when you could just look at a Diamond box and go, make those.
But, not glued.
Yeah. So speaking of Diamond...
I've heard of them.
They are probably screwed. Completely screwed. I feel bad for them, obviously. We've known people that worked at Diamond, and for a lot of the ways that the people in the industry and fans of comics will make Diamond the scapegoat for a lot of problems within it. I have never felt as adversarial towards Diamond as they have.
And also, Diamond has done a lot for, I was going to say for Challengers, not specifically for us, but
Right.
they've done a lot during the pandemic that has really helped us out as a store.
Yeah, certainly there's things that they could do better, and one of the hopes with this is that Diamond as a company will become a lot more competitive, because a lot of the things that they've been able to get away with, charging for shipping, they can't necessarily do anymore. There's things that they are going to have to elevate their game, if not for us as retailers, then for publishers, that when their exclusive contracts are going to come up, or if they don't even have them at all, could start looking to places like Penguin Random House specifically, or another distributor who may want to get into that game.
I'm going to jump in right now and say that I was talking with someone today who has heard two separate and completely contradicting things.
Yeah.
One, that Marvel's deal with PRH is exclusive and they cannot distribute anybody else for X amount of whatever.
Okay. Like a window?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing that heard is that within the next week, you will hear other publishers that have jumped to PRH.
Oh, so you're saying for the first one, wait, that Marvel is the only publisher PRH can carry? Like Marvel demanded you can't distribute anybody else?
For single issue comics.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought you were saying the other way around, where like Marvel was... okay, I misunderstood what you meant. Okay, so like Marvel had... You're hearing two rumors. One, that Marvel has in their contract that PRH can't distribute other comic publishers.
Yes.
And another where another comics publisher is going to say, hey, we're also going through PRH.
Yeah.
I would obviously have liked if PRH had been a competing distributor to Diamond, instead of just the standard, oh, you have to go through this publisher to get this, or you have to go through this distributor to get this publisher, which is... I
think they would get a lot of business if they did it that way.
I'm just...
Not as much as they're getting.
Because this is the thing, like people always... Not always, but people have spent a lot of time bemoaning the de facto monopoly Diamond has on the direct market, because, well, if you're a comic shop in the US, you have to carry Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and Image and Boom and Dynamite, and, well, they're exclusive to Diamond. And it's like, so when things like this happen, when Diamond loses its stranglehold, people are like, yay, but it's like, no, it's someone else is strangling you now. It's just not Diamond.
You have to get your books through Lunar.
Like,
for DC, you know?
Like, you can't go through someone other than Lunar. So now you have to go through Lunar, but then you also have to go through Diamond for Image and Dark Horse and Dynamite and Boom. But you also now have to go through PRH to get Marvel. And that's going back to what we were saying about pros and cons for Challengers. That's the con for Challengers is it's not like we have a variety of distributors to choose from for how we get our comics. It's that we have to go through each individual distributor to get different things. So it's these, like, instead of one big order that has a lot of things in it, we're placing a bunch of medium-sized orders through the week and through the month. And that, it just takes more time and it's more complicated to do it. And in a lot of ways, like, the end result is it's no gain for us. Like, we're not making more money doing it. It's not like books are more available. It's just more work that we have to do for the same amount of money for the same books on the shelves. But Diamond, obviously it would have been nice if Diamond had the option of stocking Marvel stuff as well. They don't. They're losing Marvel. They've lost DC already. If anyone's ever looked at a sales chart that Diamond's put out pre-March 2020, Marvel and DC collectively account for like 80-something% of what Diamond distributes.
Yeah.
That is a huge amount of money to not be bringing in. That's a catastrophic loss. One of the biggest problems for Diamond is that they have built-in fixed costs. Like, they've built warehouses. They've renovated those warehouses with huge state-of-the-art packing processes.
Yep.
They've got workforces. They've got a whole lot of stuff that is going to have a whole lot less comics in it because they're not going to be distributing Marvel or DC. That's real bad. I don't know how Diamond could possibly pivot into a different role. I'd said to you when we were really dealing with what this means for Diamond, was you and I were both around when Diamond and Capital City were two distributors, and then Diamond got all the accounts and Capital didn't have them. And Capital tried to make a go of it with, like, we're the Viz distributor. And it's like, oh, man, no.
Yep.
Oh, no. Oof. If I were any publisher who is exclusive through Diamond, I would 100% be investigating my options of who else could distribute me besides Diamond.
I remember when I was younger. Well, first let me step back and say that a lot of the things that I've learned to do in business, or I started out doing, I learned from my parents, from my dad, who had his own businesses growing up. So little things like, oh, we used his accountant.
Sure. I just learned stuff on the streets.
That's fair. That's fair. But I remember one time, and this isn't even business related, he was changing insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
And we had as a family, or, I was still young then.
Right.
He'd had the same insurance agent for a long time. But insurance agents are just agents for a company.
Right.
They're not setting policy. They're not dictating prices.
No.
He had the same agent for forever.
Yeah.
Bill Wittenberg. And, geez, I can't remember who it was. Farmers, maybe? I think it was Farmers.
Okay.
And their prices were going up. And my dad's like, hey, your prices are going up too much. I'm going to be changing. And the agent, who, it's not his fault at all, but he's like, so all these years of good service, they don't mean anything to you? And I thought, where does that really come into play?
Yeah.
Like, look at us and Diamond.
You didn't start a relationship. You didn't start a business relationship because you're friends.
Right.
You started a business relationship and you became friends. Once the business relationship doesn't make sense, I'm sorry?
So my point is, there's a lot of things we did this year thanks to Diamond.
Sure.
But we did those because they were our distributor, and we were working within their system, like using Pullbox.
Yeah.
Working as much as we did with the developers for Comic Suite.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of those things are Diamond programs we needed, and we may be losing all of those.
Yeah.
And they sunk a lot of money into it.
Sure.
But it's not in our best interest to keep... Let me rephrase that. It doesn't look like it's in our best interest to keep using Diamond when it's going to cost us significant amounts of money.
Yeah, I think the Marvel thing, certainly DC was the start of everyone sort of looking around and going, do I have too many eggs in one basket? That's retailers, that's publishers, that's a lot of people in the industry who are looking at Diamond's existence and going, okay, well, what if Diamond's not around? What do we do? Like, we talked a year ago about, like, what is plan B if Diamond's not around? And
the irony of that is that all the plans that we came up with then are not things we're moving towards.
No, not really.
Even in a potentially post-Diamond world.
Yeah.
Because since then, new things have been presented to us.
Sure. I mean, a lot of it was just speculation. A lot of it was...
Yeah, a lot of it was, if we had to make a change right now,
right,
this is how we would do it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, certainly people have spent the last year going, okay, how do I make my business, how do I make my part of the industry flexible enough to survive whatever's thrown at me? Because it might not even be Diamond. It's just, coronavirus and everything else.
Yeah.
The economy and who knows what else. And yeah, I mean, we did that too. You have to. You can't just sit there and be like, okay, everything's going to go back to normal pretty soon. It's not. It's never going to. So you need to figure out how you not only survive the present, but what the future is going to look like. And we're doing that again now, where it's, okay, well, Diamond is our point of sale system and also our subscription management, whatever else. Like, okay, we started using Comic Suite and RMH, not because they were the best tools necessarily, but because they were looped into Diamond servers.
Yeah. We
were doing all of our initial orders and reorders for all of our comics through Diamond. We were doing a little bit of stuff through other distributors, but not a lot, not on a weekly basis. Now it's like, we do a Lunar order once a month. We do Lunar FOCs once a week. We do reorders weekly through Ingram, through Penguin Random House.
You do.
Through Lunar.
Yeah, exactly.
We do, and now we're going to be doing initial orders and FOCs not through Diamond, which means all of the procedures and systems that we have that are specifically designed to work with Diamond servers, they can still work without Diamond servers, but they work way worse.
I gotta tell you, having just done the May orders last weekend.
Yeah,
I just have to count backwards by 2.
Sure.
The DC ones take forever.
Yeah.
Because of the Lunar initial order page doesn't have sales data on it. It doesn't even tell you what you ordered of the last issues like their FOC pages does.
Yep.
So I need to have a second window open so I could type it literally like, okay, I'm going to order Batman 108. Well, let me jump to the second window and type in Batman 107 into Lunar's field. Just in their generic, like, oh, I want a reorder page. Mm-hmm. It'll tell you what you ordered of just that title. Mm-hmm. It doesn't give you an order history. Doing FOCs, doing Batman, it'll say, here's what you order of every cover of like the last 5 issues of Batman, which I would want on the initial order section as well.
Right.
Doesn't give you that. Then I have to have Diamond open as well, so I can bounce to see the sell-through numbers, which half the time aren't accurate. Don't even input the books that haven't been received at certain points. Mm-hmm. So that's just to do a single, and then like, oh, well, there's a second cover. Let me go do that again.
Right.
So it takes so much longer for DC, who is so much less product than they did at this point last year, so much longer just to do their monthly catalog.
So now having to do that for Marvel as well, it's just creating a lot more work, and so we're having to kind of take a square one approach of what is the best solution for what we have in the market right now. Like with Marvel and DC both being gone from Diamond, with the viability of Diamond being kind of a question mark, and I hate saying that. Like I don't want to. It's incredibly rough for them, and my heart goes out to everyone who works in that company who did not know this was happening, who was trying to like maintain a career during COVID, and then finds out that basically like there's going to be mass layoffs in Diamond.
I was just going to say they're going to have to lay off at least half their staff.
So
that means all of like any other reorders and things. That's all going to get slowed down.
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, it's going to be a rough few months of transitions, and I don't know what October looks like, and then I don't know what 2022 looks like for that company. But unfortunately, we as a business have to look ahead to, okay, if Diamond doesn't exist, like who's going to take care of Comic Suite? Who's going to take care of Pullbox? Like, what is an alternative to those things that exist right now that we can maybe start looking towards and saying, okay, how do we create value for our customers if Diamond isn't around to be a partner in that? So we are looking at that, and we are kind of taking in different things and setting up meetings with people and other stuff. So it's going to be...
It sounds so Hollywood when you say it like that.
You're welcome. We're taking meetings. Really, really hush-hush stuff.
I mean, potentially we're looking at overhauling all of our systems.
Yeah. Or not. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
right.
we could definitely... last year we sort of rushed a little bit because things were looking very precarious. And now it's like, let's wait and see what this looks like.
Somebody had asked if we'll still be using Pullbox. And if we don't stay with Diamond, we can't use Pullbox because when you order through Pullbox, it is placing that order with Diamond for us.
Right.
And we will not be buying those books from Diamond. So
question marks for sure.
The point is, we feel like we have some options right now, which we didn't have last year. Like everything was, you have to do something now.
Yeah.
This is, we're not even going to be ordering the new Marvel product from Random House until August.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't feel as much pressure this time, and certainly the information we've been given is a lot more robust than a lot of the DC Lunar stuff, which was kind of cobbled together, a little bit less comprehensive.
It's so funny how we're so accustomed to say DC Lunar when there was UCS for 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, who was like, no thanks. So, the Marvel PRH thing, I don't really have...
The way I described this was, rather than gnashing our teeth and shaking our empty fists at the heavens, we immediately looked at it as, how can this work for us?
Yeah, I can't really get mad at it besides being like, I wish Marvel wasn't doing it. That's like my basic feeling about Marvel is I wish they weren't doing this, but they are, and I don't get a vote. So what do I do about it? Like,
there's going to be stores that now what? Like, there are stores that are so excited for this.
Okay.
There are stores that are going to immediately make more money because their discount is jumping.
Sure, ours isn't.
Right. I'm not like, well, how come they get... Like, I don't care. It sucks that ours is going down, but whatever. We don't know exactly what's happening, and there might be ways around that. Who knows, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
early days.
If you take away what this means to us and look at it bigger picture, what it means to the industry, do you think it is better for comics as a medium? Like, will this have better reach? Will this get comics back into big box stores, into grocery stores?
No. So here's the thing. I mean, keeping in mind that like Penguin Random House was distributing comics already to those places and they didn't want them.
Yeah.
I mean, the economics of that hasn't changed at all. I don't think it's going to change with like, and you can also have 1 in 25 incentive covers now. They don't care. Irrelevant to their market.
We're competing with other stores for that. Yeah.
So,
but what about like Diamond was keeping Walmart from doing exclusive covers, and now they can do exclusive covers.
Remember when Walmart was doing those exclusive DC books, and everyone was like, "The death of the industry," and then after like week 1, they weren't selling, and it turns out week 1 they only sold to comic collectors who went there to get them.
Yeah.
because it's just they don't care. So this is a thing that I was thinking about one of the kind of hidden costs of Diamond not being involved in Marvel and DC distribution and potentially going away entirely as an entity. Diamond's entire reason for existence was distributing comics.
Yeah. It's in their name.
That was their role in the market.
It's, I believe, Diamond Comic and Conversation.
They would distribute other things, and there was vague talk of them like doing back issues and stuff as a potential COVID
pivot. I remember that.
But that never came to fruition. But at the end of the day, like, they were distributing comics to comic shops from comics publishers. The thing with the Marvel PRH deal is that PRH is a distributor that existed before this, which means they absolutely could be a book distributor that exists after this. Diamond was not in any danger of deciding to not carry Marvel comics or to not distribute comics in general. That was their raison d'etre. Like, that was the whole reason they existed. This is a deal PRH made with Marvel, and that deal could fall apart. And I don't know if, like, this is a thing that my fear is PRH and Marvel look at this deal in a couple of years and go, PRH specifically looks at it and goes, oh, that isn't worth it. Look at UCS. UCS was distributing DC Comics for a few months, and they went, this is not worth it.
I told someone today, I'm like, would you actively want your business to now have to deal with 2,500 comics retailers?
Lunar has said, and I'm paraphrasing here because this is not firsthand knowledge, but Lunar has basically said in retailer-facing things, they're doing this to keep the market going.
Yeah.
Like, this is, for them, it's a business, but it's also kind of an act of charity. Is without them, maybe DC Comics don't get distributed. I don't know how true that is, but, I mean, there is something to be said for the fact of distributing single-issue comics is kind of a shitty business model. It's not great. Penguin Random House is doing it it's offering comics, at least initially, at a lower discount to retailers than Diamond is, so maybe the math on that works better. And maybe the math on whatever Marvel is selling them to Penguin for is better. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's an industry that is a gigantic pain in the ass. Lunar had to change some of its numbers to say, we can't keep shipping out 20 comics a week to a store. It is not worth the time it takes to pack.
I think that when I'm packing up a single Radiant Black #1
right,
to mail to somebody who's paying double the cover price of the book for the shipping.
It's the reason why I had said we weren't doing mail order subscriptions for Bad Idea books, because we had people who were like, I want, ENIAC, and it's like, I can only sell you ENIAC for $3.99, and that means I have to, like, pack and ship carefully, because God forbid a Bad Idea comic gets slightly damaged in delivery. I might as well have set that guy's money on fire. And for a $4 comic book, for a book that we're making a little over $2 on.
Yep.
Like, it's not worth it. And that goes right up the ladder. Like, the scale of that. Penguin Random House is probably worth it to carry Marvel books for an account like us, who gets, thousands of dollars in comics a week. It's probably not worth it for the person who's getting, 10 copies of X-Men or whatever. Like, I don't know if that's a worthwhile deal. And certainly, when that person gets their 10 copies of X-Men for the week and then complains that 3 of them are unsellable, and then Penguin Random House has to have a customer service agent handle, replacing 3 X-Men comic books that retail for $3.99 each.
Yep.
Like, this is a thing where the more effort you have to put into it, the less good a deal it looks like. And that's my fear, is that whatever exclusive deal they have, Penguin Random House can just go, no thanks. And then what? If Diamond's not around anymore, where do you go with that model? Like, who distributes those comic books? Before someone at Marvel Entertainment just goes, I guess we don't make single comics anymore because there's no way to get them to stores. We just do digital chapters and graphic novels. And then, that becomes a very different market. I'm not opposed to that market. Said it before. But it becomes a very different market. And so, yeah, Diamond going away isn't just a matter of, like, the industry transitions so much as, like, I don't know that any distributor is going to care about it as much as Diamond and build their market or build their part of the industry as singularly focused as Diamond did. And that's a worry.
And spend all this time and effort building up tools to help retailers sell that product.
Right. And so, like, that's another thing about the sort of Marvel PRH of it all, is that, PRH is I haven't had any problems with PRH as a distributor. I think they've done, a solid service for us. Certainly now that we're using their website rather than PubEasy, it's certainly a little bit more fluid and dependable. But that said, Diamond was kind of involved in a lot of things that were specifically promoting the comics industry. They were involved in things like Free Comic Book Day. They were part of planning committees for things like that and steering committees. They would do presentations at comic shows and retailer events, all sorts of stuff where it was industry focused sort of things. PRH is a book distributor, and they kind of exist more or less in conjunction with publishers. So I don't know that PRH is going to take the lead on a lot of industry growth things. They're just going to be doing what Marvel or DC or whoever they're partnering with instructs them to do, or asks them to do, or pays them to do. So, if Marvel was steering the industry, I don't know if something like Free Comic Book Day exists.
Yeah, it's funny to me how some of the questions retailers had right away. Well, is Marvel still going to be in Free Comic Book Day? That's in August. That's before any of this happens. So it's all through Diamond still.
And even PRH had basically said, if publishers want to, sure.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't sound like this is a thing that, beyond acknowledging that Free Comic Book Day is important to the industry, reading between the lines, it kind of sounded like PRH is if you guys want to do it, we'll ship the books out, but this is not our thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine any publisher looks at Free Comic Book Day as a financial success for them.
Yeah, but there was always, to my mind, the idea of it's good publicity, and it's a healthier market. Stores kind of depend on it.
Yeah, stores depend on it, but it doesn't.
But the more stores that are financially viable, the better it is for the publishers. So I think it was that idea of, and maybe if any publisher wants to tell us differently on what they specifically were getting out of Free Comic Book Day, I would love to hear it. But yeah, the twin prongs always seem like basic publicity, which is a loss, always a loss, and a more viable market to then sell your books into. But yeah, I don't feel like PRH is necessarily going to be the company that's going to be yes, we'll get our best people on it. It's more just okay, Marvel, if you want to ship out posters, we'll do that. But the nuts and bolts of it, the actual designing new ideas, definitely feels like it's going to be down more to individual publishers to do. Hopefully, an organization like Comics Pro will sort of step in to fill the void. Jen Haynes is incredibly talented and smart, and certainly couldn't have a better president to be president. Is that right?
Correct, and has already immediately been in contact with David Gabriel about what this means for the future of the industry.
So,
but don't worry, David Gabriel's very excited for what's going to happen. The same way everybody at DC was super excited and how
incredibly excited.
This was the best thing for retailers.
We can't tell you how this lunar thing is going to be better for you than Diamond, but trust us, it will be. And then a year later, it's it wasn't in any way.
And they're all fired.
Got it. So yeah, the thing I was least interested in was David Gabriel's so many excited things that he can't tell you about yet. Okay, great. So nothing. So the exciting thing is Marvel is going to make more money off of it. Got it.
Yep.
Done.
It's very exciting for Marvel.
Figured that part out right away when I saw that our discount was going down.
They're getting 50% more per books from us.
I was oh, great. Okay.
I'm sorry, 5%. Sure. It's 50, I meant 5.
Yeah. But anyway.
It was a hidden decimal point in my 50.
That's why we're great business people.
So I've been told.
But anyway, yeah, the idea of the publishers being more in charge of and also reliant upon to do industry boosting things doesn't feel great. I don't love that a whole lot because it's different publishers are incentivized to do it different ways.
Now it's falling on individuals in the comics industry the same way someone like Stu Colson decided there's a need for a better program kind of thing. It's going to be individuals who are trying to build something better for themselves than saying, oh, this could work for other people as well.
Yeah, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely the big winner in all this is Marvel. Penguin Random House probably will do okay. Stores, in a lot of ways, it's a lateral move. For us in particular, the loss of discount is kind of made up for a little bit by free freight. Not entirely, but it makes it where we're not really losing a whole lot. We just have to do a ton more work for the same amount of business.
Yep.
Diamond is totally screwed. Utterly screwed. They were already down a crazy percentage of their business from DC not being around, and now Marvel. Oh man. And then every publisher who's not Marvel or DC who was exclusive through the remaining premium publishers. Yeah, not screwed, but definitely probably doing a lot of extra work this weekend to figure out what the second half of their 2021 looks like.
We keep saying this. We've been saying it all pandemic, but imagine looking back at this point from a year from now,
Jesus,
and thinking how, wow, that was so easy. We had no idea how easy we had it, how good we had it back in late March of 2021 compared to the future. Or
maybe
all this worry for nothing. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, this is the main thing. Like, I'm sure... I don't remember exactly what our Diamond Loses DC podcast sounded like. I'm sure it was a lot angrier and a lot more resentful. But now we're kind of used to it as far as, like, shit's going to keep happening in the industry and we better react to it. And then some of it is just, I don't know, I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of feeling aggrieved that it's just like, fine, whatever. What's one more thing?
This is probably the biggest thing that could happen.
Oh my God.
I mean, to the industry, not to us personally.
This is part 2 of a 3-part, the biggest things to happen in the industry.
Yeah.
Part 1 was DC leaving. Part 2 is Marvel leaving. Part 3 is Diamond's done.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically, there's part 2, B, C, D, and E, like Image leaves and Boom leaves and,
I mean, with no Diamond, look at all the things we carry that we have to find other sources for.
Yeah,
but a lot of it is stuff. It's like, all right, well, maybe we just don't carry that product line now.
Like, what's an example? Like, what do you mean?
Well, we use them for restock of Marvel Legends.
We do, but when available,
we've shifted all of our first run pops to them.
We did, but we could shift.
We can go back. Yeah.
We've got a Funko account. If we wanted to just start going to like a minimum of 6 of each one, and then just picking the ones that we're getting at least 6 of, we could just get them from Funko.
And look at all just the non-comic stuff that we get in.
Yeah,
like pins and just all the stuff.
Sure, but that said, I mean, a lot of those things we could source from other places. It's a pain in the ass,
right? And honestly, we get them because Diamond has these. We'll get these,
right?
But I'm saying we're not at a loss for not having them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you look at those categories, and it's like, pins were huge a few years ago, but it's like, if we didn't get pins, I mean, what are we really losing out on? Like, less than $100 a week, probably? Okay.
Yeah.
It's not so bad. Yeah, everything else we can
There's going to be a point, probably in the next year, where we're like, we can downsize these pins back to a spinner rack.
It's a 2-foot section. Yeah. It's fine. And that, putting product that close to the counter in general, I usually don't want to do, so pins are like, they're small, it's fine. They don't stick off the wall.
It's fun. I do want to mention that we have a bunch of Invincible swag that's tied into the cartoon that's on the animated series that's on Amazon Prime. At Amazon Prime Video right now. There's a bunch of stuff we're giving away. And some of the things they gave us were floor markers for 6-foot social distancing, which is a thing we'd never actually used before. And we have them out, and it's great to see people using them, except the people that want to get to the pins when somebody else is standing in line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky.
I know that you're thinking, like, why are you talking about Invincible right now? Just because of the image of people like, sure. Like, there's people that we've had difficulty getting to social distance that automatically stood on the disc, the Invincible disc today.
Sure.
The majority of people that were taking things today had no idea what Invincible was. Well, and I had to tell every parent,
that's
just FYI, not for your kid.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, it's a cartoon superhero. Not for your children.
He's a high school kid. Not for kids. Dal, have you said most of what you wanted to say about Penguin Random House? I'm sure we're going to revisit this topic to death in the future.
If people have questions about it that we haven't really covered, it's so broad in scope that I'm sure there's things that we've neglected to cover, but we've been talking about it for like an hour?
56 minutes.
So I don't... Yeah, I mean... There's probably something we forgot, but if there is and people want to know what it is, I mean...
Yeah, there's minor stuff we didn't discuss, but there's no point,
send
really.
Send us an email. And yeah, like you said, I mean, we'll have more information the next week probably, and that will lead to more topics.
We are cautiously optimistic.
Oh, I don't know that I'd say optimistic. I just say cautiously pragmatic.
Okay, that's fine. Certainly not cautiously pessimistic.
No.
One of the things I do want to mention is that this very week of the year marks our 13th anniversary.
Oh, God, it does.
As challengers.
Yeah.
Well, technically, as challengers, that would have been October of last year. But it's we opened our doors on March 31st, 2008.
Yeah.
So this is our 13th anniversary.
Golly.
Someone was very kind to send us some Challengers decorated Oreos that were custom made.
And we don't know who it is.
And we asked a few people, and they all said nope. And so thank you, whoever that was. If you are wondering why we haven't thanked you, it's because it just said congratulations on your anniversary.
Uh-huh.
It didn't have a name on it.
Yep.
So we don't know.
Thank you.
So thank you. We haven't posted about it or anything because we were saving it until Wednesday, because our actual anniversary is Wednesday. So we will be celebrating all Wednesday long.
Was it a Wednesday back in 2008? I feel like it must have been, right?
That is an excellent question.
I'm going to look. I'm going to see if I can go to calendar and see if we can dial it back.
I don't remember.
Let's see what day of the week.
I think it was a Monday. I think it was a Monday, but
I mean, that sounds more right. I mean, I don't know that we would have opened on like a Wednesday, but
yeah. While I was looking that
March
up,
31st, 2008, Patrick, was a Monday.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was hoping on a Monday. Makes perfect sense. You know what? Now that I think about it, we were closed that Sunday before, and when George and I were finishing up the tape station and hanging the now replaced roller blinds, we had a father and son come in, and the son bought Wolverine 55 off the rack.
Oh, wow.
The Death of Sabretooth in cash. To which I'm like, this book is a little violent for you, kid, for our first purchase. So that, like, one of the dollars he gave us is hanging up behind our license.
Oh, wow.
But the irony was our first sale you weren't a part of.
Yeah, that was the thing where you had to tell me later, like, by the way.
We had our first sale. We weren't technically open, but yeah, so everything was good to go that Saturday night when George and I turned off the lights. And it was just getting there Monday morning.
This is only the second Wednesday we've had our anniversary.
Out of 13 years?
13 years.
Really?
I looked. It was a leap year.
I guess that makes sense.
Pushed it around.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why I'm so surprised. When I was talking before about, like, my family changing insurance companies, we've changed accountants twice.
Sure.
Already. You and I were walking through Target the other day, and in their book display, they had a new Harlan Coben book, and Harlan Coben is one of my favorite authors.
It's true.
Shout out to Earl Geyer for introducing me to him back in the day. Not the man himself, but to the writing.
His work.
I saw the book, and I picked it up, and I put it back down. And I just said, well, I'm just going to buy this through Ingram because that is our book distributor. Mm-hmm. And you're like, they're selling it 30% off. It would be 10% extra if you got it through Ingram, and you have to wait.
Right.
Okay, I'll get it now.
Yeah.
So there's not even financial loyalty to my own store.
No.
And you yourself are similar to that.
Oh, sure.
And on the one hand, I think it's kind of funny. On the other hand, you look at things like Volume's Bookcafe, who just celebrated their 5th anniversary last week, are closing that store.
I'm sorry.
This Saturday is their last day.
I'm sorry to hear that.
They still have a location at, I think, 900 North Michigan. And I think they're going to reopen somewhere else in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And I don't know the details behind it, but I'm sure it's like, rent is too much. Or
yeah, I mean, wild guess. There's a lot of companies that close stores after 5 years because 5 years is a lease.
Yeah.
For a lot of places. And that's the point where you're like, I can either re-up this, or I can close it, or I can move it.
We talk about how we built our stores up by ourselves. Mm. They built their store. Like they did a lot of custom architecture and things in that spot that they're giving up now.
That's too bad.
But I always feel bad. It's like, man, I never buy through them because I buy through us.
Right.
But here I am.
You are a bookstore.
Yeah. But here I am buying it from Target.
Sure.
So random.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's not to eat up more of the podcast, maybe. But that was the thing that occasionally people will be like sheepish about how they didn't buy something from Challengers, and it's like, I will never get mad at you for that. I'll get mad at you if you order it from Challengers and buy it someplace else.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I shop someplace else, like, I shop someplace else. That's fine.
Sure.
You don't need to justify it to me, and you don't need to couch it within, a lot of specific things to your life. Just say you bought it someplace else. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not mad at you.
During the day today, Square's servers went down, and Square is our credit card processing.
Yep.
Like, it's one thing if the internet goes down, fine, we can still do it off Wi-Fi. But when Square goes down, we're boned.
Yep.
So, years ago, we set up a PayPal Here account so we can take... Basically, it's the Square version of PayPal.
Right. Processing.
Yeah. The only problem is we never updated our reader.
No.
Which is still just, whatever, 5...
The headphone jack?
Yeah. You never even asked how I took charges?
Just assume you told people to wait.
It was down for a while.
Okay.
So we pulled up PayPal Here and had to type everything by hand.
Okay.
Every transaction was the full credit card, expiration date, CCV number, zip code. And it went right into the PayPal account.
Okay.
But after that, I'm like, you know what? We got to get a new reader in case this happens again.
Sure.
So I went to the PayPal Here site, and we're not eligible for a free reader because that's just for people signing up. Mm-hmm. So I bought a new reader for $25.
Okay.
That is a chip or a swipe.
Okay.
It's not a tap. The tap was $60.
Fine.
And I wasn't paying that.
Yeah.
Because this is just our backup emergency, but also it'll be like a little bulkier, so it can't just live where the other one used to live.
Okay. It'll just be in the drawer or something then.
Something. But I mean, it'll be it's a better... When it comes in, I'll program it to automatically default to our account.
Cool.
But it's just like, hey, there was a mom in who was looking for stuff and had a million questions, which were all fine and appropriate and not a time waster at all. And Gina was dealing with her, and then Ken tried to jump in because he'd stopped by, and the woman just went right back to Gina, which is funny. But at one point, she's like, I have to leave right now. I'll be back. She got to go pick up a kid from school, and schools are so militant about you have to be here at 4 o'clock on the dot.
Oof, yeah.
So then they both came back, and the kid was so resistant to all of the things that Gina and the mom had picked out.
You always say kids got to find it themselves.
Yeah, that's true. And so at the same time, our Wyze Cam servers were down, and I couldn't. There was
I wonder if it's the same.
That's what I thought.
Like server
That's what
company.
I thought.
Like if they're like AWS or something, and it's like like a bank went down, and all of a sudden, whoever was using those servers is screwed.
The weird thing is that I could go online and immediately see all the people like Square. What's going on? Actually, Square has. You know how their website is Square Up. Mm-hmm. They have a website called issquareup.com where you can check when there's an outage or whatever.
That's funny.
Right?
That's really good.
But I couldn't get any internet verification that Wyze was down, although our system and my phone were saying cannot connect.
Sure.
Cannot connect to the server.
Okay.
And it's rare that they give you a server error like that.
Yeah.
But there was... And when the camera came back on, there was someone who's been in the store and just walked around, did a thing where they would stand and just stare and not move, but they weren't looking at product.
Oh, weird.
And then they'd move to a different spot and do it, and they eventually left. Like Gina went over to say, hey, do you need help with anything? And they ignored her entirely.
Okay.
Then they came back in later when the cameras were down. Like, oh, man. So Gina was...
Working in that area?
Yes. And then they were standing, like, just staring at the long boxes.
Okay.
And the cameras came back up. So I hit that camera, and they had their mask all the way down.
Okay.
Eating chips.
Oh, okay.
And they were staring right at the camera. But the way the camera hit their face made their eyes just like bright white discs.
Cool.
And in Supernatural, that is a skinwalker. A skinwalker's eyes react that way on video cameras.
Oh, no.
So I immediately hustled over there. I'm like, hey, you gotta have your mask on. You gotta have that's not negotiable. You have to wear your mask.
I am calling the Winchesters.
And they're real busy right now. They're fighting Leviathans that were released from Purgatory when Castiel took all of the Purgatory souls into his own being.
You don't think this is as important as that?
I mean, it's close.
Okay.
But also Sam's mental wall that Death put up for him to keep all his memories of hell out has broken down. And he's constantly hallucinating Lucifer torturing him.
Okay.
And this is just the start of the new season.
That's great.
Season 7, baby!
Hooray!
So, after I'm like, you gotta wear your mask. It's not even negotiable. Like, that's total deal breaker. Put his mask up and then just slowly walked out.
Okay.
Like, I would rather you just do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather just walk out.
That's an okay thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We were going to talk about how excellent the brand new Image series... The 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton is, because you and I both read the first 3 issues. Yep. And independently of talking to each other, loved it.
Yeah, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say it's probably the best book I've read in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredibly good. Usually when we're given previews and stuff, like Image in general will give us like anywhere between 1 and 3 issues of a book, depending on how much is done. Skybound is usually like 3 issues because they work that far ahead.
Yeah. Hilariously, the creators never know what the retailers are given.
Like, I will always try to read at least the first issue. Beyond that, I usually don't read, even if I like it, because it's like, I'll just read it when it comes out. Like, I don't need it that badly. I can wait, 2 or 3 months to read issue 2. It's fine. I literally could not stop reading 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. I'm in that boat that you are with
Time Before Time.
Time Before Time, where it's like, I can't wait for issue 4. This sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks real bad, because literally every issue of Trigger Keaton is better than the one before it. Like, it gets better. Issue by issue it gets better. Issue 1 was so good. And then 2 gets crazier, and 3 gets even crazier.
Yeah, for sure. It's written by Kyle Starks, who used to write Rick and Morty for Oni. He's been out to the store for a signing before.
Yeah, he did Assassination with Erica Henderson for Skybound.
Which was a really fun book. And this is similar to it.
Yeah, I would say, and no offense to Erica Henderson, who's great and doing a completely different thing than Chris Wyze does, I would say Trigger Keaton is the improved version of that. In the same way that, like, the weirdos of the cast of Assassination feel a lot more fleshed out and have a lot more, like, character to them in 6 Sidekicks than Assassination, where it was just like, they're fun characters and whatever, but like any of them could get killed and it was like, okay, fine, the story can keep going. And the whole gimmick was they were almost all going to get killed.
Yeah.
6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, these characters are fascinating to me, and the mystery is ridiculous, and Trigger Keaton is the worst human being ever created in fiction. He's the worst person.
And Chris Schweizer's fight scenes are so kinetic and so graceful and so fluid.
There's a car chase scene in issue 2 that I'm like, I didn't know car chase scenes in comics could be good.
Yeah, right?
I was not aware of that.
Was your heart beating a little faster?
It was great, and it's oh man, it's so good. And like, one of the main differences between Schweizer and Henderson, as far as how they're doing like a Kyle Stark story, is that, like, so much of what I think is interesting about 6 Sidekicks is how Schweizer kind of populates the world. Like, it feels way more fleshed out in, like, the every room feels like a real room, and every
space is a real lived-in space.
Yeah, not even lived in necessarily, but it just feels filled up. There's so many little details that you would not normally draw, but he's like, the world makes more sense if there's these bikes in the background, so I'm going to draw these bikes. A lot of things that a lot of artists would be like, I do not want to draw cars, no thank you. Schweizer's like, there need to be cars on the freeway. Here's cars.
Yeah, he's really good at making each person an individual shape, size, design. Yeah. Like, you immediately remember who all the characters are because nobody looks the same. Yeah. But like, not in like, oh, we have to represent way. Like, no, this is what people look like.
Yeah, like, I think one of the, like, because I don't want to do anything to say that, like, yeah, 6 Sidekicks isn't as good as Assassination, but since I feel like I was a little bit saying, like, oh, Schweizer better than, I mean, I love Erica Henderson. Like, Dracula Motherfucker was a book that I recommended to everybody last year and continue to recommend to whoever will let me. I think she's someone who designs more for a page, and Schweizer's someone who designs more for a panel.
Yeah, okay.
Things are definitely readable, totally, but Schweizer's not the guy who's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do something crazy with this layout. Like, he's not. It's going to be grids and squares and rectangles, but within those, the camera just is very well placed. The car scene in particular, like the car chase stuff, a lot of people don't do that in comics because it's incredibly difficult through still images to make that read. A lot of what makes a car chase interesting is the kind of kinetic nature of it, and so doing it on film or doing it on TV, like, is way easier to make the audience understand what they're looking at. I never felt like I didn't know what was going on in this, even when cars are going in different directions and doing weird turns and stuff. I'm like, no, I get what's happening here, and I get how that character's doing it and why it's impressive. Also, funny as hell. Oh my god. So funny.
So funny.
So funny.
I mean, I haven't laughed out loud at a comic this much in a long, if ever, time.
There is a gag about a boyfriend in issue 3 that killed me. Middle of the night, I'm reading this thing, and I get to that panel, I'm like, oh, come on.
I said I have a boyfriend.
Starks. Kyle Starks, you son of a bitch. Yeah, we don't usually do this a lot. We do it incredibly sparingly. We're not even doing it for Beta Ray Bill, a book that we will definitely make Australia weep for how badly we beat All-Star Comics in Melbourne.
I mean, I already feel bad for them, and the book hasn't even come out. It does come out this Wednesday, though, so Beta Ray Bill #1, International Sales Battle.
On our anniversary. I don't want to say anniversary gift.
Yeah.
We don't even do it for Beta Ray Bill, but I feel like we are going to offer a money-back guarantee for Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton #1.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so good. There are books where I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't read this. I don't know who the audience for this isn't. So, yeah, we're going to be putting it in a ton of people's hands. We're going to be doing a lot of hand recommendation and hand selling for it because it is sincerely excellent. It is a beautiful book that's incredibly funny with a crazy story, with a great cast. It just works really good. Man, oh man.
Chris Wyze is also an incredibly gifted woodworker, and he's done a lot of different woodworked figures. He's
a Renaissance man.
I have a Sherlock Holmes and Watson figures, and he's done a bunch of different literary and historical figures, and I have a nativity scene. Like he's done a papercraft nativity scene, and then he also did historical Santas through different cultures.
Yeah,
as a card set that I bought that, but I always wanted him to do his historical Santas as wood figures. Now I want the Six Sidekicks as wood figures.
Yeah, very excited.
Not even action figures, wood figures.
Very excited to see Schweizer at the next comic convention so we can see what Six Sidekicks stuff he's got. For those who are wondering what the hell Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton is about, because we haven't really talked about that a whole lot.
I mean, let's say that to next time.
No, real quick, I want people to know why we're excited.
Okay.
The basic overview is that Trigger Keaton is a TV and movie star.
Before you say anything,
this is just the premise.
I know, but there's, even knowing it's going to happen, the reveal page is so stark. No pun intended.
But I knew that going into it.
Yeah, okay.
Like, basically the idea is Trigger Keaton was a star of terrible TV shows over the last few decades, and he is dead, and his death is being investigated as a murder by his former TV sidekicks, who basically all had their lives ruined by him. Those 6 sidekicks from 6 different projects Trigger Keaton worked on are basically forming a mystery-solving team to investigate Trigger Keaton's quote-unquote murder. Oh, yeah. It's great, and the sidekicks are great, and the shows they worked on, because you get to see, each issue you get to see a little bit of the shows that Trigger Keaton was on with them.
And their TV guide
the little TV guide listings.
And then like a little blurb in a trade press magazine.
The introduction to Tad from Sidecar is maybe my favorite joke in the first issue.
You mean Skippy?
That you could just hear that voice. No, I'm Tad. It's great. Like there's so much in the world of this nonsense. It kind of feels to me like a mix of like Tarantino and Wes Anderson and like Edgar Wright, where it's just this weird, ridiculous world they've created that keeps. There's so many layers. It just keeps going. Like every issue has more weird crap to it about these people who have come up against fame, been destroyed by it, but still feel like I wasn't totally destroyed, so this is gonna work.
Yep.
Like it's that sort of like go get 'em attitude from a bunch of failures.
There's a lot of gumption and moxie in these characters.
There is. It's great. It's such a winning book.
It doesn't come out until middle of June.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about this
June 9th, I think.
Well, that's technically middle of June.
Second week of June.
You'll hear us talking about it a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe even something else.
But
at this point, we don't even know, so never mind.
It's true. Also, it's entertainment.
Anyway, Dal, congratulations on 13 years.
Yourself as well, Patrick.
Thanks.
How you going to celebrate? Gonna eat some dinner?
I'll celebrate during the day on Wednesday, selling Beta Ray Bill. Why do I keep saying beta? Beta Ray Bill #1 to every single person that comes in.
Not even selling, just ringing it up because they're going to want to buy it. Because why wouldn't they want to buy it?
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
For 13 more years.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.